Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman. Today, we are revisiting again the Carmelo Anthony case. A lot of us are really doing like a post-mortem autopsy, not just of the case, but we're really giving a deep dive look into how did the Carmelo Anthony family get here. Things appear to be getting progressively worse for them. The more time that passes and the more that we try to make sense of how the perpetrator in this case, Carmelo Anthony, a lot of us, I'll be honest, are trying to understand how is it that this family continues to paint themselves as the victim, and we've yet to see accountability, contrition, any sort of remorse or sorrow from these people, but instead they keep doubling down on this victim narrative and this race baiting narrative. And even so many attorneys and law professors and a lot of people are coming out and saying that the sentence that Carmelo Anthony received, much of it is because of the way that the people who were in charge, his family, his legal representatives, his social justice advocates, they are the ones that made things infinitely more difficult for Karmelo. As you guys know, Carmelo Anthony received 35 years as a prison sentence for the stabbing of Austin Metcalf. And so what I want to do is I want to react to a few clips. The first clip that I want to react to is going to demonstrate some of the missteps that the Carmelo Anthony family made, one of which I've already talked about. I talked about very early on how I knew something was stinking in Denmark when they retained the services. Yes, I'm calling it the services of Dominique Alexander. And it demonstrated to me that I was like, these people are not that smart. These people are not that smart. And I know it is disparaging when you call someone low IQ, but these people are not reading the room. Even when information about Dominique Alexander started to come out, you would think that they would say, okay, us being connected to this individual is going to damage our credibility. We got to cut them loose. No. They did not do that. They did not seek wise counsel. They did not enter into this situation with the sole purpose of defending their son and giving him the best chances of a favorable outcome at all, simply because they made way too many mistakes and were unwilling to listen to the wisdom of what so many people, even on the internet, was trying to make them see. Another misstep they made was allowing so many of these race hustling grifters, not the usual suspects like your Al Sharptons or your Ben Crump. They have been nowhere near this case because they're like, yeah, we can't help this boy. What they did was they gave the ball to the JV squad of race hustling and race grifters, such as your Charleston Whites, and then these other wannabe legal minds thinking that having these people advocate on their behalf was going to be a net positive, but in the end, it ended up being a net negative. So first, let's take a look at this this character was new on the scene. So many people have been trying to take advantage of the Carmelo Anthony situation. And at the end of the day, one day, I am praying that Carmelo Anthony realizes that none of these people loved him or gave a darn about him, but they were only interested in themselves and what they could get from it, namely, what type of monetary payoff was in it for them. Let's take a look at this first clip.
And here are your top stories. The attorney who claimed that Carmelo Anthony was illegally lynched after being convicted of first-degree murder for killing Austin Metcalf is actually not eligible to practice in Texas because she's suspended for disciplinary reasons, aka she is a convicted felon who was ordered mental treatment conditions. Thelma Anderson said the Anthony family, quote, has been legally lynched for the last year and more so by the slaughterhouse of a courthouse, as well as the family of the Metcalfs. So the energy, she said, is very white supremacy. They have shown to be the pigs that they are. Anderson was convicted of federal wire fraud in a paycheck protection program. This convicted felon was presented to the public as a credible legal voice analyzing the Carmelo Anthony murder verdict, but nobody talked about her criminal record or her being blocked from practicing law. The State Bar of Texas currently lists Thelma M. Anderson, bar card number 240-91728, as, quote, not eligible to practice in Texas with disciplinary status as, quote, suspended disciplinary reasons. Her suspension took effect on March 3rd. Federal court records in the Northern District of Texas confirm Anderson pleaded guilty to wire fraud, which is a felony, and received a sentence of 4 years probation plus $20,000 in restitution to the U.S. Small Business Administration. Immediately after the verdict, Anderson became a voice online and in the media, identifying herself as attorney Thelma Anderson. In addition to accusing the court and the Metcalfs of white supremacy, she called the courthouse a slaughterhouse, criticized the state's witness strategy as, quote, very weird, and suggested it may have hurt the prosecution. The state called 17 eyewitnesses in addition to coaches, medical examiners, and experts. Okay, here's some details. Anderson served as an assistant district attorney in the Dallas County District Attorney's Office from 2016 until March of 2022. Dallas County DA policy prohibited outside employment without authorization. Anderson did not get that authorization and had a business outside of her position. While employed there, she operated Thelma Lou LLC, a clothing boutique that she claimed was doing business in Irving, Texas. On February 4th, 2021, she submitted a PPP loan application that falsely stated the business had an average monthly payroll expenses of about $9,000 and gross sales of about $140,000 in 2019.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there because here's what I want you guys, the audience, to take away from this. The vast majority, if not all of the people inadvertently connected to this Carmelo Anthony case, they are all either criminals, grifters, or just, these are not good people. In my opinion, I think what the Carmelo Anthony family has done is surround themselves in their desperate attempt to, quote unquote, save or defend their son. They simply surrounded themselves with everyone who gave them what's called confirmation bias. If you come to the table not in truth and in honesty and loving us enough to tell us, look, what are we really dealing with here? How much time is he really looking at? Does this look good for Carmelo? Is there a possibility that he could possibly win this case? No, they weren't interested in that. They were looking for anyone who would echo the narrative of racism, prejudice, bias, just like the grandmama said.
Racist! Racist! Bias!
This was confirmation bias. Anybody who came to them with that narrative, they were willing to give a platform and were willing to allow them to raise money on their behalf and to exploit what happened to Austin Metcalf at the hands of Carmelo Anthony so that everybody could benefit. This is what desperation smells like. So this chick right here, Thelma Louise, I don't remember her full legal government name. We're just going to call her Thelma Louise. This chick, I remember when she came out and started making all kinds of inflammatory statements, calling the courthouse a slaughterhouse. I was like, here we go. We got another race bait and grifter here. When it's obvious race had nothing to do with this case, you have someone that's going to echo the sentiment of racism and bias and prejudice. And that's the narrative that they wanted to drive home, thinking that that was going to be enough to shield Carmelo Anthony from accountability. But guess what? It didn't work because y'all are like the boy who cried wolf. You've been crying and whining and screaming racism for so long that the vast majority of the American public are not buying it anymore and it's not working. And so you retain the services. And when I say retain the services, I'm not saying that there's some contractual relationship between this Thelma person and the Carmelo Anthony family, but it is obvious that she was given license to speak on behalf of the Carmelo Anthony family. And she was speaking. It's funny how none of these legal minds were secured and retained as a part of his legal defense. But after the fact, everybody who had something to say that somehow is the opposite of the story that the defense showed, or should I say, told us in court, now all of a sudden these legal minds want to speak and tell us what this is really all about. I'm saying here that the Carmelo Anthony family has surrounded themselves with a bunch of miscreants and criminals and people who have a very sketchy past. And it makes you wonder, why would a family who claims to be so upright and whose son didn't do nothing and him was a good boy and he was just out here saving lives every weekend from little kids who drown in pools? I'm not saying that he didn't do that, but this is the narrative they're trying to present. Why is it everybody surrounding this case on your side of the courtroom are all criminals or people who are damaging your credibility, and y'all ain't got the sense enough to see it and cut these people off and say, look, we appreciate you wanting to help, but you got way too much going on with yourself. It's like they've done no due diligence. They weren't interested in saying, are these good people and are these going to be good people to represent my son? They didn't care. They're just like, can you be loud? Can you scream racism over and over again and to where people believe it? This is why I believe they allowed Charleston White to jump on the bandwagon and get in where he can fit in. He's another race hustling, illegitimate grifter that we're going to watch him flip-flop, right? Like, so he comes out the woodwork. All of a sudden, he's Team Karmelo. And then when he didn't get the payday that he thought he was going to get, or when him and the Carmelo Anthony family could not negotiate, I guess, a fair exchange for his race grifting, race hustling services, now all of a sudden he wants to cut them off and say he is no longer associated with the Carmelo Anthony family. This whole family is a bunch of shysters.
I'm off the Carmelo Anthony case. I ain't put no money toward that boy. His daddy too got weak for me. I don't like a weak. His dad ain't willing to die, kill, or go to jail for nothing. That nigga wants some bills paid. Carmelo, my heart go out to you if you ever see this video one day. I'd rather stand with the Jeff Metcalf than I would with Carmelo's daddy. Weak, dockside, and subservient. I ain't standing with no weak ass black man. I'm off the case. I'm sending the money back. Go get them weak ass Benjamin Trump here. I'm out. Called content. I gotta make content over here for the Karmelo fans. Then I gotta make content over here for the Metcalf fans. Then I gotta make comment for the hate racist heart people. So I gotta make something for everybody. He don't know what he wanna do. I make something for everybody. I say Karmelo, I say Jeff, I make something for everybody. So I got fans. So guess what? My views go up, my engagement go up. Now if I just stayed over here with Karmelo, I'm gonna lose people. Aiden Ross hates Charleston. He's a murderer. I can't have Aiden mad at me. That's my nephew. Then I got my other people over here. Man, you ride with the white folk, man. Listen, the white man came in peace and love at first. I was with him at first. Were you with the white man at first? Yeah. I came and got with the nigga. I satisfied everybody. Now it's time for me to make money off everybody I'm satisfied. Don't get mad, nigga. I'm finna have some free Karmelo shirts. I got the watermelon felon shirts for the Metcalf people. I'm finna have free Karmelo, no touchdown, no peace. I'm finna have them shirts for the poor niggas that wanna beg for something. I got something for everybody. I swear to God I do. Everybody can get it. Anybody can get it. Everybody got it. Anybody can get it.
And it's sad because there is a 19-year-old young man's life that has to pay the price because of his family's ignorance, negligence, and inability to shepherd the resources that were handed to them.
Before the American Revolution, our founding fathers considered themselves slaves of the empire. And then Thomas Jefferson read John Locke. And he said that our freedom was not given us by the king. It was an unalienable right given us by God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. The founders understood that, and this is why, at the end of the Declaration of Independence, they put, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They said they would die before they'd be slaves. I won't just die before I be a slave. I'll kill before I be one. So all y'all out there to say you have no choice, well, the founders showed you. It's Patrick Henry that said, give me liberty or give me death. And on that fateful night when George Washington had to cross the Delaware River in the ice and the snow, or the American Revolution would be lost, they said, General, what are the passwords? He said, victory or death. Either we're successful tonight or we all die. That's the idea of a free man. And I am a free man. So all you out there that believes that someone has to give you your freedom, you're admitting that you're a slave. If you come try to take my freedom away, God has given me the right to defend myself. And I got two things that'll get you off of me. That is Jesus and my 38. Slaves is a choice.
Y'all, I am in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign for my documentary, as you can see here at the bottom, Slavery is a Choice. And the people who have bought into this project and who believe in the work that Vince Everett Ellison and myself are doing have given us their money because they are expecting us to take this donated money. Like, this is not our money. They are expecting us to do with it what we said we were going to do with it, which is to produce a film. How is it that these people had no problem raising all of this money for legal fees and all sorts of other things, and then when it came down to hiring and retaining competent legal counsel for their son, all of a sudden they ain't got no money for the appeal? So we're like, well, where is the money? No money for the appeal. And they were just doing what they were told to do, but they have not given an account for what they've already done with the first batch of donated funds that they received. Where did all of the money go? You cannot convince me that over $500,000 that was raised, that you didn't see that it would make sense to keep that money for his legal defense. But instead, however much Mark Howard charged you to defend Karmelo, one, I hope y'all paid him in full and y'all don't owe him any money. But the question is, how much did it cost and where's the rest of the money? Because all I can see is a bunch of crooks or people with really sketchy past. Everybody is hitching their wagon to this Carmelo Anthony story. And the more y'all want to convince us that it was racism, hatred, and bigotry as to why he didn't get a fair trial, the truth is coming out and nobody believes y'all. Like, this is some hood rat ghetto foolishness. You got an attorney here who is not even eligible to practice law in the state of Texas, who has got this disciplinary action against her. This chick used to be the former ADA in Dallas County and got wrapped up into some PPP foolishness where she misrepresented what she was using PPP loan funds for. And then not only that, you got Dominique Alexander, who you've not cut off. He's still associated with you. And then you had Charleston White. So I want to show you guys this other clip that further explains how these people are trying to present themselves as some victims, but they're the ones that made it worse for their son, not just by the company they keep and the people that they had connected to this case, but how, I'm telling you, the lead attorney breaks it down. Listen to this.
On how Carmelo Anthony's family has actually costed Carmelo extra years in prison. So many extra years. You wanted me to expound on that further because you had not heard anyone make that point. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm giving you the perspective, not of a YouTuber reacting to news, but of an attorney who's practiced for more than 20 years. This is behind the scenes info, so let's get to it. Now, let me explain on how Carmelo's mother basically sentenced her own son Carmelo to an extra 10 to 30 more years in prison and what she can do about it now to try to fix it. I explained in my last video that Carmelo's mother apparently hired a family spokesperson, one Dominique Alexander. This Dominique calls himself a minister of justice, whatever that is. Dominique is a convicted felon. He's alleged to have beaten his girlfriend. Then he got a new girlfriend, and when that girlfriend left out of the apartment, the good minister grabbed that woman's 2-year-old baby and shook him until that baby got got brain damage. The good minister pled guilty in that case to felony charges and was in prison. Now, this is the man that Karmelo's mom chose to speak on Karmelo and the family's behalf. The good baby shaking minister. The minister did exactly what you would expect a convicted felon to do when handling Karmelo's case. He absolutely destroyed it. How? He ostracized the most important person in Karmelo's case. Now, who is that? Is that the judge? No. Is that the prosecutor? No. The most important person alive in Karmelo's case is actually Jeff Metcalf, the father of the young man that Carmelo Anthony killed, Austin Metcalf. The father, Jeff Metcalf, is the linchpin to Karmelo's entire future. Let me tell you that in a murder case where the victim is gone, the case lives on through the victim's next of kin. When a parent has to bury his child, everyone looks to that parent to gauge how to react. Judges consciously and subconsciously look at the parent's facial expression when they are testifying on the witness stand. Prosecutors run all their plea offers through the parents. Reporters knock on the parents' doors for statements, and they aim their cameras at the parents when the verdicts drop. And the jurors, oh my goodness. The jurors hang on every word of the parents, notice every little movement, every gesture. In this case, Jeff Metcalf, the father, is not just a spectator in the case, he's the conscience of the entire community. If you win Jeff, you win all the sympathy. But if you alienate him, you can go to prison.
So the reason why I wanted y'all to listen to this is because this was one of the initial things that I said when I saw that press conference where Dominique Alexander was doing all of the talking right after Jeff Metcalf attempted to come to the press conference to pray and say, hey, let's not make this about race. But instead, the Carmelo Anthony family allowed Dominique Alexander to speak on their behalf. I knew it was over. I said, and here's the thing, I'm not even an attorney. I don't even have paralegal experience. But if I was on the defense team, I would have told the Carmelo Anthony family, look here, we're going to defend you and we're going to defend you vigorously. But here's what we need you to do. Not only are you going to pay for Austin Metcalf's funeral, you're going to send some flowers. You are going to reach out to the Metcalf family, offer your condolences, offer your sympathy, and you're going to write a nice big check. That's what you're going to do. And then we need to hear, not just from you, the parents, but we need to hear from Karmelo, a speech that we will write for him, but we need it to sound sorrowful, with a contrite heart, and with lots of tears, because that is going to help your defense. We may not be able to get your son off, but what we can probably alleviate is the severity of his sentence. That is what you want. Everybody ain't on your side right now, and the best way for us to get people on your side is if we can get the Austin Metcalf family to, at least at minimum, get a sense that you are sorrowful for what you've done and that you didn't mean to kill him. And that is going to play and have so much weight during the trial. That's what we need you to do. Do I make myself clear? That would have been the terms and conditions on which I would have been willing to defend Carmelo Anthony. I would have been like, you do realize you about to pay for that funeral. You are absolutely about to pay for the funeral. Now, like I said, I'm not an attorney, but I'd be looking for ways to demonstrate through actions, not just words, that my intent was never to kill Austin, and that this was a situation in one split second I made there was a poor sense of judgment, but that I am so broken up and heartbroken over what I've done that I'm trying to figure out, what can I do? I can't bring your son back, but maybe this token of peace is, or an olive branch or something. And then the last thing I would have done is listen to what the father said. If the father said this ain't about race, it ain't about race. It's absolutely not about race. I would have been able to squash any sort of narrative that somebody would have wanted to bring up, and me and the father would have been on the same, a united front. Don't bring race into this. That is not what this is. But did they listen? No, they didn't listen, because they knew Carmelo Anthony was as guilty as sin. And instead of, like the Bible teaches, for us to come repentant, remorseful, full of humility, and laying our sin down at the foot of the cross. Instead, they doubled down in pride and in arrogance and in entitlement and made themselves out to be the victim. How do you have this kind of advocacy around you is beyond me. But it was at this moment that I realized that Carmelo Anthony's fate was sealed because the people around him weren't thinking about him. They were thinking about themselves. They raised money off of it, a lot of money at that, and everybody was getting a piece of the pie. From Dominique Alexander to Charleston White to this other Thelma Louise character. Everybody was eating off of Karmelo. And at the end of the day, Karmelo one day is going to wake up and realize that these people didn't give a darn about him. So I wanted to share this context with you in terms of the fact that each of the characters that have been associated with the Carmelo Anthony case on the side of Carmelo Anthony, they're all corrupt in some way. And the question we need to ask ourselves is why? Why would a family not have sense enough to vet these people and say, no, get away from us. You stay away, and you absolutely got to stay away. This is not who we are. We don't even want to associate ourselves with people like you unless they are just like the company they've been keeping. That is my argument. These people are just like the company they've been keeping, and they force us to arrive to that conclusion because they won't cut these jokers loose. They won't even issue a statement to say, we distance ourselves and completely disavow. And I don't know how these people decided to hitch themselves to our wagon, but they've not done that. They have not renounced any of these people, but instead they have been trying to figure out how much money can you raise and can we get a cut? Everybody's in on this grift. So I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? Leave me your comments and your thoughts down in the box below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.